much I loved him. I can't. Words are so inadequate. Since his passing, many people have offered their condolences to me. And if they knew John, even slightly, they all said the same thing. He was such a nice guy. I really liked him. I don't believe John ever met a person that didn't like him. He was kind, honest, considerate, generous, patient, optimistic. He bought a set of golf clubs this summer. Responsible, smart, unassuming, never wanting to be the center of attention, humble, gentle yet strong, hardworking. He never took a vacation until he was in his 50s. Patriotic. When John graduated from high school, he was 17 years old. He wanted to join the Marine Corps. My mother refused to sign the papers. She said, go to the University of Maryland, Massachusetts. Get your education and reconsider. He said, okay. He went off to school, turned 18, December 5th, came home and joined the Marine Corps. He was funny. You always wanted to be around him. He was witty and quick, and as we said, his one-liners were legendary. He was reserved in his emotions, but very loving. And he was a man of faith who converted to Catholicism 15 plus years ago, which I think sustained him during this ordeal and gave him the ability to lose a child. And with John, there was something extra special about all these wonderful qualities. They went beyond the norm that somehow made an ordinary man extraordinary. John loved baseball. His position was catcher, and he played as a little kid all through school and then later in a senior league. He liked watching football. John also collected watches and had so many watches, they had a large closet with these little mechanisms that would rock back and forth to keep the batteries charged. He was an avid reader, especially of nonfiction and U.S. history. He liked to keep up on current events. Cruising the world became a passion. And he loved his little dogs. He and Debbie had Labrador retrievers for years, and lately 2 little dogs, Kai and Nikki. But his greatest love was his family. He particularly liked watching his grandchildren play their games. He would call and let members know if the game was being televised and what channel we could watch it on. He would let us know where he was going to see the next game. And then, when they were in schools, he had banners. And he would hang up the banners with the winning team getting top billing. But you all probably know this, because we know what kind of guy John was. And John was this kind of guy all his life, even as a little boy. I could tell you stories to highlight, and when we get back to Linda's, I will. But we all have our own stories and memories with John that do that, because he was a special person that was a special person with everyone. What I can tell you is that he remained true and genuine, even when faced with a terminal illness, because that was the kind of guy John was. John and Debbie had settled into their Ocean Pines home, updating the house and starting to build a social league. John connected with the Maryland Marine Corps League and started to meet the guys for breakfast, working out at the local gym, and getting together as couples with fellow Marines and their wives. Life was great. He was happy and content. He was looking forward to more cruises, maybe visiting Massachusetts. Very optimistic about the future. But then he started having trouble swallowing. Death is a challenge. John faced his with dignity, grace, strength, and courage. And his last year on this earth really showed what kind of guy John was. He continued to exhibit all the traits I mentioned before. When John decided to inform people about his prognosis, he sent a text, which was a copy of a letter from his doctor, stating his cancer was incurable and he would be on chemotherapy for the rest of his life. How does one respond to a text with this information? I texted back a bunch of tears, praying hands, sad faces, and wrote, "I am so, so sorry." He texted me back, "It's okay." Because that's the kind of guy John was. Though for the most part, John kept his emotions and thoughts private, there were a few conversations I had with him about his situation. His only concern was for his wife, Debbie. The kids were good, but he worried about her. He told our brother Bobby he was at peace. I asked him if he was scared. He looked at me, shook his head no, then motioned, maybe a little. He hoped he had been good enough to go to heaven. There is no doubt he is there. He started to plan his own funeral, spare Debbie the task of having to do it alone. He picked out the hymn that we just listened to. What was important to him remained so. He was proud to be a Marine and wanted to be dressed in his uniform. It is true. Once a Marine, always a Marine. I'm sorry. The only time I heard him complain was twice about his cancer, was when he was eating once. He was having trouble swallowing his food, and he said, "This sucks. I like to eat." And he did. And then his last week, he didn't want to sleep in his hospital bed. He wanted to sleep in his own bed with his wife and his 2 little dogs. And all through this, he kept his fantastic sense of humor. His one-liners were still coming, even when he had difficulty talking. His last verbal communication was mouthing, "I love you," and "Goodbye, Dee Dee," which is a special childhood nickname we had for our youngest brother, Donald. I am so grateful that I have a family that is so loving and caring. My sister-in-law, Debbie, took such good care of my brother, especially during his final days. If you watched the picture slides in the other room, you may have noticed many of the pictures are of both John and Debbie. They seem to be side by side all during their 54 years together. You can't think of one without the other. Debbie is such a big part of John. My brothers and their wives made a schedule to ensure that one of the guys was always with Debbie to help and support her, especially when John needed to be lifted or turned. Uncle Hank, who John had a very special place in his heart for, and is so much like John in so many ways, stayed in the background, not wanting to intrude or disrupt the routine, he said, asking for updates and expressing his and his family's love and concern, not only for John, but for all of us. Britt, our cousin, started writing John after seeing his condition at the August family reunion. John was very touched and asked me to convey to Britt, because he didn't want to be rude and let too much time pass, his appreciation, and let him know he would respond when he could hold a pen and he felt a little bit better. John's community of friends would check in and offer help. My friends asked if there was anything they could do. We felt the love and support, and I'm sure John did as well. I would like to thank you all as we sit here and say our final goodbyes to John. Debbie keeps a chest of mementos from funerals of loved ones. In preparation for John's service, she opened the box and found a letter addressed to her from John, letting her know how much he loved her and the 2 children, 6 grandchildren, and 3 great-grandchildren their union had produced. and what a wonderful life he had with her. He wanted no doubt. He knew she would find the letter after he was gone. It was a quiet, private goodbye to his wife and family, because that's the kind of guy John was. My sister Donna said it accurately and simply. He was the best of us. And yes, that's who John was.